And so hopefully you heard that.
Yep.
So with that, I'm going to get started with our meeting. And unless Jose, do you have anything that you want to say before we start?
Well, yes. First of all, I would like to say that I'm very happy this group was productive in last 5 months. This meeting is a follow-up of the meeting of February 18 of this year. At that time, the Association of Retired Professors Network decided to have a working group to define objectives, goals of this network. Chair Al Hampson is chairing today's meeting, and I would like to thank you and to Nina for bringing this meeting together and providing the technology. The members of the group will present today, and by that, I'm just passing on to Al, and he will run this session and the discussion afterwards. Basically, what we would like to get from this meeting is what next? What seems needed, appropriate, useful, and doable for doing something smart and good? Al, thank you.
Okay. You started with the introductions. Actually, let me just say a few words before we introduce the other people. Our at Jose said, at one of our network meetings, I think back in February, we talked about ways to expand our electronic connectivity with retired professors from around the world. To move forward with this, we set up an ad hoc committee. And our goal was to suggest goals, objectives for us to pursue. We had 6 members who were good enough to volunteer to serve on the committee. I just want to recognize them and maybe ask you just raise your hand so you can see. You'll hear from each of them during this program. But Heinz Dreyer from Australia, Jose already that you know so well, Sandra Hurst from Canada, Michelle Porter from Canada, and Nina Silverstein from the U.S. So those are the people that served on the committee, and you will hear from each of them as we go through the program. Um, our objectives were to look for ways to collaborate, find ways to share our knowledge, look for ways to connect with other retiree association, and just look for ways to engage better with each other and more retired professors from around the world. The committee met twice during over the last few months, and we came up with a number of different ideas, and we used we sent those actually to Heinz, who used a semantic analysis, which led us to really coalesce around several different themes. Um, During our last meeting, we really kind of massaged all these ideas and converged on 7 themes that we'd like to review with you today. We want to use them really for as a catalyst for discussion and to generate even more ideas to help us find ways to move forward with our association in a even more meaningful way of engagement for retired academics in society. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Heinz to start us with our first theme.
Yes, okay, good. So just quickly, it's not deliberate that I'm doing theme 1. It just happens to be that way. So I don't think anybody is that invested in any of these things more than the other, although there might be a slight tendency to the particular theme that was chosen or allocated, as it were. Okay, so the idea here of institutional access and benefits has been long-standing in the group that Jose and colleagues has led, the Emeritus Professors Group. And so it's not surprising that it has shown up in this group, which we call RPAN, Retired Professors Associations Network. I don't know whether that's a working title or whether that is going to continue, but anyway, that's how I think of it. So the three that are very clearly obvious there is maintaining active status. So I guess email is one way of doing that, but there are directory listings and maybe through all sorts of other things, parking and dining and so on. I'm not that interested in those ones, but they clearly are. See, for some people, post-retirement linked to a university isn't necessarily continuing university work. It might be just socialising with one's academic colleagues. Another strong point was emphasis on mutual benefit and not entitlement so much. Very often we do think of post-retirement of academics as having something to do with status and entitlement. But look, there's a mutual benefit, and I think that'll emerge as we move on to the next one there. So continued email access is one that I'm wanting to emphasise. So in my case, I see it as a preservation of digital artefacts. You know, in our work, we've created papers that have been published and research reports and so on. And these exist now as digital artefacts by and large. And maybe there are some ongoing projects as well. And all of these are linked by our institutional email. And that usually is something like ending in edu or .ac, as it was in my case in the Austrian education system. Maybe there are some others as well. But look, these identifications in the email are useful also, perhaps, when you're subscribing to services, some software or whatever, and you can get some student or faculty type discounts. So the next slide sort of elaborates on that a little bit, and I think we could just pretty much read that. I hope these slides will be available to participants later so that you can mull over them a little bit. So anyway, continued email access is very important, and I have a long history of that and had a very, very tough time post-retirement. So it's a big feature in my case. All right, so what else do we have now? Okay, so the continued library and digital access. Look, that's a really big point for me. I didn't want to continue my life as an academic in retirement, but I definitely want access to the bibliographic databases and repositories, and they're very hard to organise individually. So continued connection with a university or some organisation is very, very useful. I'm sure that I'm not the only one in that position. So yeah, I think the next slide just shows these, emphasises the support for software and software access. So it goes a little bit beyond, I guess, just having an email account. There are all sorts of other things involved in that. And these days we know that there is tremendous rapid advancement of software and IT generally. So I think in all cases, whether we've been involved with it, as has Jose and myself and Doug Vogel, and maybe some others, so maybe we would know a little more about how to deal with these things. But if you've been working in another domain, it might be a much greater challenge. So just very quickly in summary, provision of digital identity, preservation of digital identity into retirement and beyond. So look, the beyond part is post-death, because your digital identity doesn't disappear when you die. Someone around, maybe your colleagues or whoever, they maybe even family, they need to be able to deal with these things for some period of time, not forever, obviously. I think we should understand that universities differ in policies, so we have to respect this. I don't know how easy it would be to run a university these days. In Australia, the vice chancellors are being hammered really for turning academic institutions into business-like institutions, particularly by commanding $1 million salaries. Yeah, that doesn't sit too right, I don't think. Anyway, we all need to move forward, so that last slide, I think, makes that point. So in that spirit, we invite the ideas, personal experience, scenarios, and even vignettes, maybe, of some of these issues. The ones that you have experienced and pick on, you can develop into some sort of a little story. There's an example at the end which Elle will share with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Heinz. The theme I'm going to discuss is research grants and funding. And this is coming from the ideas that the group has generated, and also from my personal experience, which I'll share after the broader comments. First of all, to legitimize the role of principal investigator as an emeriti or retired faculty, and the idea of being able to continue to apply for research fundings as a principal investigator. There's no set policy on this. I went ahead and since formal retirement, I've been a principal investigator on 3 consecutive grants. The university seems very happy to receive the funding. I've also been able to support research assistants, and so the department is very happy that graduate students are supported. I thought that maybe there would be an issue submitting for institutional review board human subjects applications, but no, I'm in the system. I've kept up my training, and that seems to be fine. So I don't know if it hasn't caught up with me yet, which I'm sure that they just haven't thought about this. But so far it's been working out. And I've heard from others, other Emeriti faculty that no, their universities have policies that you cannot continue this way. Also, the idea of being able to continue as a co-investigator. Maybe your university has a policy that at least the principal has to be a full-time faculty member. So fine, then still, can you continue as a co-investigator? And as I said, support graduate students. The idea of continuing by presenting at professional conferences. Yes, our professional identity is often tied to our professional organizations, to be able to maintain that. Also, to continue to publish. We certainly, again, it's about options. So not everybody wants to do this, but if you do want to do this, that you should be able to continue to publish. And then also there's some overlap here with later themes, but to explore continued teaching and mentoring opportunities. And also I will say that yes, while volunteering is important, there's no reason why emeriti and retired faculty can't be paid for their services as well. So one of the first things that I did was to make sure I didn't lose payroll in the system by they switched me to an hourly rate, hourly professional, whatever. I just wanted to make sure that I stayed in the system so that I didn't have to go through being a new hire. So that was, that was one thing that I was working on. All right, so now we turn over to our colleague, Michelle Porter, who is not retired. Michelle is a full professor currently at the University of Manitoba. Michelle.
Thanks, Nina. And as with others, I'm going to kind of draw on what was discussed, although I wasn't actually at that meeting. So what came out in the thematic analysis that was done, and I'll interject a little bit with regards to some of the things we've been doing here at the University of Manitoba, and we've been hearing from retired individuals. So this is about possible activities related to academic and professional engagement. These things kind of interact with some of the things that we've already heard. So individuals should have opportunities for continued learning. So obviously through universities, there's lots of opportunities for learning, and are individuals able to engage in those? Some of these are required, as Nina said, if you want to maintain your ability to do studies with human participants. There's often certificates associated with learning that you need to get, and so that would be important. But individuals also have interest in doing things that have nothing to do with their research. So they might be interested in auditing classes at the university. There's other opportunities for in-person as well as online that should be open to retired individuals, and they should be aware of them. I think we've been finding with some of the things at our university, there are lots of opportunities, but it's kind of hard to find out about many of them. And then there's other institutional training. The things evolve a lot, particularly in the research world. So AI as an example of where it'd be great for individuals to still have access to training. As I mentioned earlier, just awareness of things is really important. There's a lot going on at universities, and so better efforts probably need to be put in place. Certainly at the University of Manitoba they do, to let retired individuals know about what's happening. And then providing opportunities to volunteer. We heard from retirees as well as our senior scholars and professors emeriti that many are quite keen to continue to engage with the university in a number of different ways, one of which might be to volunteer, and so that could include tutoring, in being involved in for-credit courses as guest lecturers. I think people need to keep that in mind. I'm not sure that departments or faculties are keeping that in mind. And other opportunities could be through presenting through lifelong learning programs. And I presented at a group that's meeting at Carleton University in Ottawa, and they are doing just that. They are organizing themselves as retired faculty members, a lifelong learning program for others, and they are going to be the presenters. And we have in this group talked before about peer reviewing, being part of editorial teams. So these are all things that can continue, obviously, with people's vast experience that they've garnered over time, and perhaps have more time to engage in those types of activities. And then mentoring is another one. Certainly we're doing a lot more here in that regard, and trying to keep in mind that retired faculty are also interested in this. This could be with new faculty, students, and staff. And as I was preparing for this presentation, I was thinking maybe we also need to have mentoring for people at other stages of their careers as well. I think we, like many things in life, we do a lot of mentoring for people at the very beginning stages, maybe the first 5 years of their careers, but people are going to be in their careers for decades, and maybe people need mentoring as they move through different stages of their career. And then finally, perhaps having an emeritus college that would be led by retired faculty, if that's something that is desired at a particular university. So I'll leave it there.
I might just comment on Michelle's comment about mentoring people that are thinking about retirement or newly retired people. We on our website at the University of Michigan, if you go out to there, we put together a series of seminars on how to what we call retire and thrive. And it might be something you might be interested along those lines. And we're going to write something up for the Arohi newsletter on that coming up soon. So I don't just I think you're absolutely right. We could mentor faculty that are considering retirement or have just moved on to retirement. And we can help them in a variety of ways. But let me
Michelle,
get
could I add the
yeah.
role of Professor Emeriti in the silver economy? Because we got a lot of things like micro-credentialing and that are going to occur. And so independent contracting may be one form of engagement, but there's a changing role of Professor Emeriti in the silver economy.
Yeah, good thought. Unless there's other comments, let's move on to our theme 4, which is global networking and collaboration. And our goal here was to look for ways to connect with other higher education retiree associations, or maybe even other retiree associations outside of higher ed, to facilitate collaboration, enhance our knowledge sharing, interlink with them in a variety of different ways. All of this is again with so that retiree academics can continue in a more meaningful engagement. I do need to remind you that we've already got a good start on this. We've done some really good things already for as far as our global networking go. Jose and maybe with help of others, I don't know, helped set up a website which I think is really a good website that links us to other retiree association, lists names and emails of people to have contact with. I think that is a very good start. Of course, we have our quarterly meetings, which that provided some very interesting presentations and discussions. Um, and we have connected with the national organization in the U.S., AROHI, and the Canadian Association, CURAC. So we've already connected, and they have their presidents here with us today. Um, our next slide is, it is not just connecting with higher ed associations, but we might connect with other organizations that are interested in assisting retirees in general. And in our discussions, we came up with four organizations that we might want to connect with. One is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, or OLLI. It's quite wide across the U.S. I don't know if they go beyond the U.S. or not, but many of our retiree organizations in the Big Ten and other colleges across the country have a connection and do joint programs with OLLI already. So that's on the top of my list. The American Geriatric Society is, of course, interested in helping all retirees. It might be one that we might want to connect with. And kind of just branching off of that, there's geriatric societies in other countries and states that we might connect with. And then we did list the GSA Third Age Interest Group, which is in development. And it's not one that I am real familiar with. I'm not sure who suggested that. Was that Nina? Was that you? But any?
The Gerontological Society of America, and they are, they're recognizing that their membership is aging, and that they want to keep people engaged. So they are talking this. They're talking about having a third age interest group. So as I said, it's not yet formalized, but at least they're in that direction as well.
And I did just interrupt for a little bit. Does anyone else have other organizations that you're familiar with that we might want to try to connect with? Any come to mind right now? And you can also think about that and tell us at the end if you have one.
It's Sandy. There is the International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics, which is worldwide and is well established. And they also have regional meetings within that international group.
Okay, that's a good one to add to our list.
And they're going to be meeting, I think, in Geneva in just a week or two, a couple of weeks. I'm not attending.
Yeah, but there's a European section of that which met in Dublin, and I forget the other sites. So it's quite well established, exceptionally well attended, and certainly something for us to consider. There used to be an association of gerontology and higher education in the US as well, that had some very good I'm not sure if it's still functioning.
Sandy, I'm a past president of the association, and now it's totally integrated within the Gerontological Society of America as its education arm unit.
I love that conferences. They were wonderful.
Thank you. I think so, but we couldn't survive as a standalone organization.
Well, a good idea. So then one other idea that came up that I thought was rather interesting is that, we could set up what, we have often you hear of the sister cities where two cities from different parts of the world connect. We could connect our retiree associations with other retiree associations in other parts of the world. I actually had a firsthand experience with that. I involved one of the CURAC meetings, and somebody mentioned the University of Windsor, which is right across the river from us in Detroit, not very far from No, that's no great. I forgot to turn my phone off. Sorry, but didn't even think about that. I should tell you all turn your phones off too at this point. Somebody mentioned the University of Windsor that they had a very good retiree association. So I called them and talked to the president of that association. We had a really good conversation comparing what each of our organizations do, and we've agreed to do an exchange of having them attend one of our meetings, and a group of us, or at least one or two of us, would attend one of their meetings in Windsor. We are really only about an hour apart. Probably with the crossing the bridge, maybe it could be 2 hours. We thought that's a good idea. If we would set up some connection with other organizations, a lot of good things could come out of that. We even both talked about we both have interest groups that involve biking. And we thought, well, we might do a joint biking group together. So it's just ways to connect and just encourage more conversation with the different sets of ideas of things that we do in different parts of the world. Um, so so how do we connect? Um, and we discussed these in kind of great detail. We came up with these recommendations. You may have others but we think we talked about again sharing websites like we do with the ARPAN website, making presentations about our associations at the ARPAN quarterly meetings. When an organization has developed a new program or something they think that it would be of interest to people around the world, encouraging individual retiree associations to do presentations. Um, We've even thought about, visiting association board meetings, sitting in on them. And we wouldn't mind if somebody sat on our University of Michigan Retiree Association board meeting to hear the types of things we talk about and the new ideas we have, or even attending the membership meetings. Many of them now are live streamed, so you wouldn't have to go there. On the other hand, going there might be kind of interesting. um, Calling or emailing members of other associations. After our February meeting, I got calls from people from Switzerland and from the Western Canada asking about some of the ideas that we presented. And I had a very interesting conversations with them and shared some ideas. I would encourage more of that type of thing to happen. Attending conferences like the Arohi conference that's coming up in October in Florida would be one, and then as Eric mentioned, Keurig just had a conference in Vancouver that was excellent, and thinking about doing some traveling to maybe attend one of the national conferences. I'm sure Eric would be very happy to have people attend from other parts of the world to the conference in Florida.
Yes, yes.
Um, Encourage more attendance at these quarterly meetings. So we have 15 people here today, but the things that I've talked about in these meetings we've had over this last year, I think would be of interest to more people. So we need to find a way to kind of market these quarterly meetings. I think we'd like more people to benefit and to receive their ideas. And we might even do an exchange program for people who like to travel. So that was kind of another idea. Let's think, what else do I have to say? If we move on to uh, I'd actually go back one slide for just a minute. We'd like to encourage people again to attend other conferences. And then the last idea there was that we might even think about creating a conference with our Retired Professors Association network at some time and have an international conference. I think that'd be a wonderful idea. On the other hand, that's going to be a whole lot of work for somebody and a lot of effort. So we're not proposing that right now, but we might want to think about that. It might draw it'd be a good excuse to travel, and an awful lot of us on our committee. What do people like to do in retirement? They like to travel and see other parts of the world. Well, this would be one example where we might host a conference. And as Eric said earlier, we're thinking about combining CUREC and Arohi and maybe doing a joint conference to kind of start that off. And if we did do that, we might encourage people from other parts of the world to attend, not just from Canada and the U.S. So I'll close down from there, or they're going to cut me off. So let's move on to our theme 5. Jose, there you go.
Thank you, Al. Thank you. I would like to share some ideas about communications and knowledge sharing, partly based on discussion we had in our meetings and partly on what we are doing for several years. Retired professors are of value, and we should try to engage them as much as possible according to what they would like to do in their local environment and share with the others. There are several channels that we can use. Particularly using technology is opening up new ideas, new approaches, new possibilities. For knowledge sharing, meetings and technology for meeting support is becoming so important. Just think of technology we are using today, bringing 15 people together from different parts of the world, and we can see each other and talk and share ideas. Collaborative activities is about collaboration in general. This is becoming a hot topic in last 10, 15 years. A new discipline emerged, which is collaborative engineering. How do we do that? And we can learn from those who are very much engaged in collaboration. Our network can play a certain role. The role I can see is bringing entities together, not creating a new organization, but just bringing together what already exists, what people are already doing and are open to share, and particularly websites interlinking. We are learning that most of us associations do have websites, mostly focusing their own members, meetings, lunches, working together, some other activities, but for the group of the association as such, they are not open to other associations, and it is recommended that an additional website is needed focusing at relations with the others. Next, please. Regular meetings are important. So far, we are having 5 meetings of professors emeriti a year, and it's quite enough, I would say. 5 meetings a year, monthly would be most probably very much requiring. Newsletters and bulletins. Many associations are doing very good work. Today with us is Caroline. She is very active as the editor of a journal focusing at retired professors. How and what can we do to interlink them to let people know where and what they can find? And of course, online platforms, which are a component of new upcoming technologies. Next, please. Particularly, it's important to understand that what we have in mind is getting to people, individuals who would like to share and connect with other individuals. Not just an association, not just umbrella organization of individuals, but individuals who have interest in working with other individuals with similar interests. Webinars and virtual conferences are important. As far as conferences are concerned, there can be two perspectives. One, how can we make it easy for people to travel without traveling and being home and not being pressed by costs of travel? And the other perspective is how they can be organized so that people combine part of tourism and part of the conference. Both perspectives are important to our members. Next, please. Several activities are there where retired professors can engage. We would like in the following months to exploit some of them in perhaps develop a certain prototype of what can be done using different possibilities that we have available. Next, please. It was already mentioned that research support is something what we could engage, advisory roles, public engagement, lectures, exchange, and joint events. This was already mentioned and is pretty general, but very useful, and we could exploit this. Next, please. Websites interlinking is what we are learning in last, let's say, 4 or 5 years, something very important. Very important because there are several issues. One, it cannot be done without the agreement of the management of an association and very close support of technologists, someone who can make it happen. But just technology cannot do it. President or the whole board of directors or leading members of the association has to agree on that. On the other side, websites have to be designed for collaboration. Think of the websites we are using now. We are focusing on our group, our network, our members, and we hope that somebody else can find something of interest in what we are doing and publish or posting on the website. For example, the Arohi intention is, and is partly already experienced, that we provide just links to associations that confirmed interest to be linked. Not much, but quite useful, and something what some associations are not really willing to do. So it takes time, it takes interest, or requires interest of those who would like to do that, to open up. Sorry, in the network, we would like to experience. We already have several associations that provided the link, so our members or anybody, it's not limited to our members, anybody can have a look what the association is doing and what they have to offer. Recently, there was a message from Caroline about her journal or her publication, that we would like to have a list of such journals where people can publish or read what others are publishing. So far, there are too many wonderful things hidden, and people have problems to find them. Next, please. Here is just an example. And this is something what would be proposed as something to take away from our meeting today. Talk to the association that would like to be interlinked. This would mean they would allow us to publish their link to their website on our website, and they would agree to accommodate the visitors of the website so they can easily find what they are looking for. My experience so far is not much, not too difficult, but to be honest, not so easy, and not just everybody will like to do that. I understand it will take time. Let me conclude with the words of the president of Orohi a few months ago when he said, "We expect to connect individuals globally, and it may take us years, maybe 5 years. It will take time." And this is also what I am learning being the editor of the Orohi, ERPAN website. And thank you.
Okay, my turn. I'm going to take a step back. If you look at every single slide, I think the underlying foundation has been health and well-being, because we've talked a lot about how to promote social connections, how do we promote relationships. This Zoom call itself is an ideal example of promoting social engagement, which we know links to health and well-being, and which we know addresses loneliness, one of the key challenges. So every single slide, that underlying thread has been health, it's been community, and it's been supporting us. So I think that's something we need to consider as well as it being a theme. I have to admit, I had fun. Nina, when you said to do a slide, I had fun playing with this slide because it really, putting my glasses on here, because it really does speak to a couple of themes I wanted to address in relation to community. Every single retiree association individually throughout the world, and every national association promotes a sense of community, promotes a sense of well-being, of connectedness, of engagement. But we do those engagement activities through diversity. The bike tour was mentioned earlier. You wouldn't get me on a bike come hell or high water, but you would get me on your travel. Travel, absolutely, I do that. Locally, we're doing a book club now. We're also running through Carol Lynn, a special interest group for families who are experiencing family members with dementia. So all those activities that we're sharing through our local community groups. We talked a little bit, I gotta lift this up a little bit to make sure I can see my slide. We talked a little bit too, that's health and well-being. We talked a little bit too, simply about support. And the Carol Lynn's example I gave was one example of support for families. But what other ways are we supporting those? Because though we look at individual retiree groups, its members, we're also looking at their chosen families. And their chosen families are extremely important. We're looking too at that continued connection. So when you talk about emails, when you talk about following through and maintaining IT contact, we're talking about connections. So what I'm doing is simply reiterating or emphasizing the strategies that we have talked all the way through. So there's another slide here that I want to really bring up. The next slide then. If we look, these were some of we talked a lot about membership. We talked a lot about emails. So I went through looking at some of the thoughts that were already coming out of the meeting groups that the small group had. We talked a lot about bringing cultural and regional perspectives on well-being. But we talked about sharing those, talked about how do we relate and link to each other? How do we learn from each other? We talked about lifestyle practices. healthy aging practices, stress management. Absolutely, I have a top one. Somebody wants to do a session on stress management, and I'm right, I'll sign up right now. Local healthcare insights because of diversity of differences, accessibility tools and community resources. And one of the things that linked for me here was yesterday I attended a national advisory group on how to address abuse among older adults, how to use evidence practice to guide some of those decisions among health and human service professionals. And that tool we're developing would be national, it would be free of scale, that we would certainly be welcoming to share. But this diversity of input from members can help us make informed personal decisions. I think all of us would say that the more information we have and the more shifting that we do with it will help us make informed decisions. And I have to admit, I do use ChatGPT, I do use Claude, but they're resources to help me critically think, to move me beyond what's on pen and paper into thinking about the implications. And the other thing I noticed in going through the slides, there's some fantastic ideas, really strong ideas, but a lot of them are conceptual based still, what we're working towards. So I thought I would give you a practical example of what we could actually share right now on the website. The International Federation of Aging is an international organization that covers, it has a number of different diversities. It has Asia, it has Pacific Rim, it has Australia, which you may know. Graham Pryor from Australia, for example, is the president. But under the leadership of Jane Barrett, the former Secretary General, they received very substantive funding to develop a vaccine for life program. And this vaccine for life program is free, it's accessible internationally. But what I like about it is it actually looks at diversity. So it's not saying this is what we do in Canada, you must do it. It's not what we do in the UK, you must do it. It recognizes that across the world there are a diversity of vaccine challenges and initiatives. So, but it's also linking that to how do we promote health and well-being. Because it operates as a vital knowledge sharing network, it bridges the gap between science, it's evidence-based driven, it's policy, it's patient advocacy. I thought we could actually make a link to our own website. So those are my comments. I'd be happy to address any questions later.
So now we're going to theme 7, which is really we've opened up for all of your ideas. What did you like about what we suggested? What other ideas, experiences, scenarios, or vignettes that you might have to help us advance our organization? Um, we're looking for things that are focused on function and empowerment and not entitlement. We've talked about that in the in other quarterly meetings that we've had. Not just saying, well, we're entitled to have parking. Well, there's reasons why we need parking on campus because we need to use the library or whatever. So it's not entitlements, but function and empowerment, um, and uh, and looking for other ways to contribute. We have a vignette that I would like to show there, yeah, that Heinz put together as an example of something you might provide to us in writing. Heinz, you want to just go over that quickly, or any comments that you have on this, and then we'll open it up for discussion from others. Heinz, you're muted right now.
Okay, so it's a small snapshot of part of my post-retirement. I mean, retirement, I knew it was coming. It was full control on my side. It's something that I decided to do, but there's a small window in which you have to do it. Basically, it's now or die in the job, and I didn't want to do the latter. So, but look, it was a hell of a shock, and I was very unprepared. But you take these things in your life and you learn from them and you make them work for you. You know, I'm not one to hang around and moan and complain. And I love all these ideas that are coming up, like the Vaccines for Life program. I want to see, instead of vaccines, a couple of slides ago, instead of Vaccines for Life, I want to see access to bibliographic databases program. That's what I miss. So, look, I don't know what it's like with other people that have retired from academia, but there are some things you just can't let go. It works at me all the time. I've just finished a lengthy peer review of an article, and for that I had to dive into the literature a lot, and I was really stymied by having to find all sorts of back roads and so on to articles that are pre-published and so on, or else pay for the article, which I'm not willing to do because I'm giving my time freely. So other people would have similar stories and maybe completely different ones. The more we collect like that, the better to advance whatever it is that empowers us in going forward in our retirement.
So I have a question because you raise a good point. Here at the University of Calgary, I have access to a lot of databases free. Would it be worthwhile beginning to identify what databases are free? Or, and it's a question on it. I mean, are there ones in
Yeah,
the
okay,
UK,
Sandra.
for example, that I don't know about?
Yeah, okay. So it obviously varies by discipline. So I'm mostly interested in the IT, so to do with computer science, informatics, information systems, and so on. So medical people are interested in lots of other things,
Yeah.
historians and social scientists and so on. Although most of these things do overlap. So, for example, ERIC, I dive into ERIC from time to time.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I can't get good access to that. Although having said that, more and more of these publishers are opening access. Now, it's nowhere near as simple as open access. There are at least 3 levels of open access.
Yep.
And of course, publishers understandably run a business, and they have to make some money somehow. So, but anyway, I think that that providing access to bibliographic databases is not actually that difficult for universities to do. It doesn't add much to their fundamental cost, and even if they charge, it's going to be a good way forward.
I'm pushing a little bit. I'm deliberately pushing, so you can tell me to back off. But I think your idea is the need is absolutely there. So how do we move from A to B? We may not have an answer today, but maybe we need to pick some priorities that we as a group can work on.
Yes, well, look, I wholeheartedly support that, and it's people like Eric Hockett and some other people that are working at higher levels and so on. I'm just an individual, so I can come up with ideas, and I made no secret about this, even to Jose, ages and ages ago, that I was chasing this up, and it's a constant theme with me. And I'm unapologetic about it. So it would be.
So do we have ideas from others? This is your chance to give us your comments on things we've presented today that you really like, or or maybe ones that you don't like so much and you don't think you want to pursue. I think I saw Eric's hand come up first, so I'll go to Eric first. We got a
Well,
couple other hands up.
I think Nina was first, but
That's okay. I defer to you, Eric, because I have a request that relates to you. So I'd rather hear your comments first.
okay. Well, thanks, Al, and everybody else for putting this together. I think you've made a lot of progress here, and I know you've met a number of times, and it looks like you put a lot of thought into this. I just have a couple of comments. One of the common ideas that I think is coming out of this pretty obviously is the idea of connection. Not only connection among retirement organizations, but also connections among individual people and the importance of that. Of course, now CURAC and Arohi are 2 organizations that exist already and are doing a number of things to bring people together. So the question might be how all of this relates to those 2 organizations. The next question that I have is, are there identified next steps, Al, for what you're proposing here? Are there some specific suggestions that you have as next steps, or is the group going to continue to meet? So I'm just wondering what comes next after our meeting today.
Well, actually, we've already set up our next meeting of this, what I call our ad hoc group. We wanted to hear the comments from people today, and then we are going to have a meeting in July or August to talk about. I mean, it's real nice to come up with ideas, but you also then have to put which ones have priority. How do you put together an action plan to actually make them happen? This committee, at least will provide some ideas. I don't know that we're going to take on all the roles of doing all these things, but we will take the ideas and your comments today. We're going to get together and then answer exactly that question, Eric. What do we where do we go next? Which things maybe have the highest priority? Some of them which might be which ones are a little bit easier to do to move forward. So we're taking all their ideas, and that's why we wanted to hear your other ideas today. And the group again we've got a next meeting already set up.
Yeah. The other comment that I have, Al, is we're talking about connections, and I just want to highlight a couple of connections that exist already, which I think is an important maybe first step because they're relatively easy to do. For example, Al has been recently appointed as a member of the board of directors with Emeriti. Al is also part of the Big Ten Retirees Association. We're hosting a conference here in Minnesota, and Al will be talking about this work of the group here at that conference. Michelle is the leader of the Age-Friendly University Global Network for North America, and I've had some connection with her on that. I know Sandy and Walter are part of the CURAC organization. I was an attendee at the CURAC conference in Vancouver that I mentioned earlier at Walter's kind invitation, and Walter is also going to be our guest at the Emeriti conference down in Florida, and is actually a participant in the planning for that conference. So we have these connections that exist already, and we have the connections amongst us here with this activity, and there may be some others as well. So we're starting to develop these kind of interlinking, if not interlinking of boards, a connection for communication channels, just like what we're doing here. So I just wanted to mention or highlight some of those things that we have going on already where we are connected to each other as a first step. Thanks, Al.
And as I do those, I'm going to do a presentation both at the Big Ten meeting and with Eric and Walter at the Emeriti meeting. One of my goals there is to get more people to join these quarterly meetings that we're having with ARPAN. I think they have been very interesting. So we need to find ways more to market it, and those two sessions we're doing. Hopefully, we can do that some. So, Nina, you were next.
Okay, thank you. My thoughts are following Sandy's idea about what are our priorities, and Heinz mentioning one of his, and then recalling, Michelle, a comment that you made last February, which is recorded, and we could probably find that you actually said it. Okay, so here's the idea. You mentioned, wouldn't it be, I could see an electronic survey that's built around these 7 themes that goes out to the memberships of all these organizations that you just mentioned, and have it sponsored by all these different organizations. And then, Eric, if somehow some seed money, it gets to Michelle's university, because Michelle did offer to be able to analyze, but it would be, if she had a small grant that she was able to then have a graduate student research assistant work on it, I think it would be very useful, at least moving forward, as to what are the priorities, what's kind of, I call low-hanging fruit, what's there for us, what takes a little bit more time, and what would be involved. But being able to reach emeriti and retired faculty in a much broader way. I know that I think when I last asked Jose about the membership here, he said the number was about 60. But you take his 60 from these different countries, and you take the number of different organizations you just mentioned, And I think we could get a really, nice broad spectrum of where people are at and what they're interested in.
Okay. Richard?
Yes, yeah, thank you. This has been really interesting to me. Actually, I'm retiring in a week and a half, or by June 30th. But I've been very recruited by my retiree association to be involved. So we have two pre-retiree seats on our executive board here at York. So, um, and that explains the mess on my bookshelves too. I'm trying to figure out how many books I can part with. But just to, I really think this was a great discussion, interesting, and two things I'll point out is that teaching is pretty important for a lot of my colleagues, right? Keeping up the teaching, it's obviously the research for sure, but the teaching also because they, especially with mentoring graduate students and so on, and that's kind of the institutional connection, right? Your research connections are often pan-institutional, right? But the thing that ties you to your own institution often is disproportionately your teaching. So, which is often connected, obviously, with your research. So, and that also, though, also spills over into entitlements. So that's the one thing I worry about in the discussion. We don't want to make it too, we want to see that entitlements and function are blended in many ways, right? So because our colleagues have a right to be, or used to have a right to be actually financially compensated for principal supervision. And that's kind of fallen away in our entitlements. And so there's a case where entitlements are important for function. I've just mentioned. So I wouldn't separate the two totally. And I don't think that was necessarily the intention. It's how we express them. But and the other one is well, obviously all kinds of benefits, but also research expenses. We actually have entitlement to something close to a regular faculty member's research and expense reimbursement till about age 75. And then at age 75, it cuts off. But these days, a lot of people don't retire until close to 75. And then they find it's age related, not years related. And instead of 10 years, it just says up to 10 years after your normal retirement date, which is 65. So I think in the next bargaining round for the regular faculty association, that's actually going to be an issue, is making sure that people get 10 years of research entitlement, not just up to 75. So there's two cases where entitlements are also related to function. So, and I don't think it was the intention to separate them unduly, but on the ground, that's kind of how it feels to some of us, is that we're always fighting for entitlements. Even though what brings us together is these issues of maintaining our sense of connection to our profession and having our institutions benefit from that, which I think everyone explained really well in their presentations. Anyway, sorry to take so long, and sorry I've got to leave in about 10, 15 minutes.
But just to comment on that, one of the things, if you talk about entitlements, then it always becomes a financial thing. The university said, no, that's a nice idea, but we can't afford it. That's why I think we really have to approach this from what are the things that we will provide to the university? What's our empowerment that we can give back, as opposed to, oh, we're entitled to this because we had it there for so long. Again, it becomes the financial things, and most colleges and universities are always struggling financially. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I do. Yeah.
So I like your ideas, and that we have to approach them from the right perspective. So, Doug.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I've really appreciated the richness of the suggestions that have come out here, and I think that's exactly in the direction of what we can all benefit from. I particularly like to underscore Sandra mentioned health and wellness. Um, when I reached mandatory retirement in Hong Kong, which is at 65, if HR just says come pick up your check, uh, China picked me up and said, "Can you help us set up a research institute? And what would you like it to be?" And I said, "Well, how about health?" And so we established a healthcare, e-health, a research institute, and that's worked out really well because it promotes the intellectual curiosity and also encourages particularly the engagement of mentorship. And this mentoring helps everybody on all sides. It helps us as mentors to continue to be cognitively engaged, and it helps those who I've seen retire and just kind of fall off the cliff. And a lot of people are wondering what's next. About 15 years ago, over 15 years ago, I did a panel at one of our major conferences on so thinking of retiring and gathered together some key people that frankly really helped my thinking as I move forward, as well as the association, this Association of Information Systems. So I think setting up a more formal mentoring kind of program where people say, I'll volunteer to be a mentor, and other people saying, you know, here's my situation now, you know, what do you think? And connect and get that connection going, because that connection is ultimately the real key. And that's a little bit of what we're doing here collectively, but that connection between individuals, I think, is really important. And mentoring gives us that helps for both the mentor and the mentee. So happy to be engaged.
Good. Thank you for all your comments. I did think of one more thing that we haven't talked about. One thing we've been very successful with at our University of Michigan Retiree Association is what we call shared interest groups. And I mentioned our biking group, and I know Sandra doesn't want to join our biking group, but uh, there are other things that we might think about doing on an international basis. We have a reading club that we read a book each month and then share ideas. I'm reading a book from a Greek author right now that would be interesting to share with our group that I might bring back. I mean, so there are things like that. We have a travel discussion group that talks about travels in different parts of the world. Those are just kind of two ideas. We have a mindfulness and meditation group that's actually meeting this afternoon that has opened up a new world for me. I've always heard about that and just haven't done much with it. It's actually very interesting. And so that might be another thing that we might think about. Do we want to set up some kind of, and that's a way for people in smaller groups that have a like type interest to get together, but you really get to know each other in those smaller groups. You become familiar with their families and everything else, and as well as sharing ideas on a common area of interest. So one more thing that we might think about doing in the future that I hadn't thought about adding that before. Uh, Eric.
Yeah, so I just want to come back a little bit to what your next steps are. And I think you mentioned that the group is going to continue to meet to discuss what we've talked about today and to move towards maybe some specific next actions. Another part of what I think you're going to be doing, I only mention this to see if I understand correctly what your plans are, is to share these ideas at the Big Ten conference, at the Rohi conference, to bring in additional interests and ideas to expand the connections that we have beyond this group here, which I think is a very good core group. So I'm just mentioning that. Is that basically what your plans are moving forward?
Absolutely. That's in both the presentations there is I want to make people aware of this network because most people, I mean, it's a new network, a
Right.
new association, so people don't know about it. So the first thing is to let people even know that we exist, and then to encourage people to attend what I call them our quarterly meetings, 5 times a year meetings. We have 15 people today. There's a lot more people that could benefit from our discussions that we're having. So, and then also to say, here's things that we're exploring. So I will review the things that we're thinking about at both of those meetings. And yes, we're gathering in smaller groups and to get more ideas, and I'll bring them back to the committee and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, and just one other thing, I think I mentioned this before, is not only raising awareness, but just establishing these connections or these relationships, whether it's with Rohi, with Curac, with individual retirement organizations, with these other age-related organizations that had been mentioned earlier. Just raising that awareness and establishing some kind of a connection, either electronically by sharing our websites or these interlocking kinds of things. For example, Walter participating with our Rohi conference planning, me attending the Curac conference, Al is on the board of directors for Rohi. So I already have all these relationships that are starting to develop, and I would encourage us to continue to do that and to bring in these other age-related organizations, at least for an awareness viewpoint. I think, Al, that's what you're doing. Yeah.
Yep. And so many of our organizations, the meetings, the presentations we have, the speakers we have are live streamed. So I mean, we have our University of Michigan group meets once a month as a membership group, and we have two speakers, and those speakers are live streamed. And we a wide variety of very interesting topics that anybody can join in on. So how do we share those ideas is just another thing. Sandra, you have a comment.
Actually, Walter had his hand up first.
Oh, sorry. I missed Walter. It didn't come up on my screen. Sorry, Walter. Oh, you had your hand up. I wasn't watching the screen. Yes, I was going to ask Walter for his comments.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of very interesting ideas today, and I intend to follow up on some of them. Curac is having a couple of summer meetings where we're really workshopping rather than regular board meetings, and at some of these issues that have been raised today, I hope to raise then. A couple of things in particular. Arohi has this virtual retirement chapter, and it was mentioned building connections among individuals across a wide area rather than just associations. Now, Curac doesn't have this section really for individuals, which Arohi does. So I'm watching Arohi's virtual retirement chapter very closely to see if this is something that Curac needs to perhaps emulate. And the other thing is this group, if you look around the screen, it's pretty much confined to the Anglosphere with maybe a couple of people from Europe. And so I was very interested when Doug mentioned China. So I'd like to ask Doug, what's the rest of your name and what's your connection to China and where are you anyway?
Okay. Well, my last name is Vogel, which means bird in German, basically. And my heritage goes back to Switzerland. And I had the pleasure of having two meals with Josie just about a week ago. So it's wonderful to get back into the scheme of things in a European context. But now I'm also Australian, so Australian citizenship, and but I have China residency, and continue to be active with the research institute that I established 15 years ago. So and again, that it just encourages a whole focus on wellness and remaining healthy and intellectually curious, all of which is connected together as we make sure we're all cognitively engaged.
That's great. I think Murray raised his hand first, and then we'll go to Sandra.
Okay.
All right, I just didn't want my idea about the encore career and the silver economy being lost because many professors emeritus are going to be engaged in entrepreneurial endeavors and also extending the educational services. So in your deliberations of your group, I wish you could consider the changes that are occurring in our society and the changing then role of professors emeritus within those changes. That's all I wanted to say.
That's good. Thank you. Sandra.
Yeah, mine just Carol Lynn had a comment in the chat. I'm not sure if we went to all of it. She said, please ensure that intergenerational linkages are explored and developed as we move forward. So I would just plant that thought with the ad hoc committee.
Good, good, good. Thank you. Any other comments or suggestions or thoughts on the themes that we had today? We've had some pretty good discussion afterwards.
You could take that golf club down now and go play golf.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is a pretty, it's right. It's pretty nice here right down that day. That's a good idea. I like it. So if not, I'll turn it back over to Jose for letting us know when the next meeting is. Maybe what do we have a theme for that? Back to you, Jose.
Thank you, Al. Our next meeting in September is on the use of AI tools for retired professors. With our colleague from Minnesota, we will co-chair this meeting, and now we will, after this meeting today, we will start the preparation of the September meeting. The focus will be at what are we learning from using AI tools in our work, in our research, in whatever we do as retired professors. So this is the next event, next meeting of Network of Professors Emeriti. As you mentioned, Al, and I would return the word to you. You mentioned that in July we will meet and we will discuss about the ideas which emerged today and come up with a proposal about what next and how can we do it. And what would you suggest in order to open up expectation about what next, and how could we together as a group impact or suggest associations to come together and share the ideas? Al, please.
Yes, that's what we'll talk about our meeting that I think will be in July. And it's all right. So how do we take all of this and move forward with some action that we would recommend back to the group? We may want to do another session at some point with this group. I'm also looking forward to some of the comments that we'll get from the Big Ten as well as the Rohi in October. So we may get I don't want to wait that long to meet. I want to build off of what our discussion was today, but I also want to bring in some of the comments that we might receive, at least at those other two meetings, and maybe there's other places that we might want to promote this organization and get more ideas from. But which direction we go right now and which one first, I'm going to wait to have that discussion at our meeting. And hear the comments of the people that have volunteered to be on this ad hoc committee.
Al, I just have a final comment. I think everybody hopefully feels this way. This is a small group, but years from now, people will look back, and even if they don't know our names, they will know that there was a group that initiated something that years from now could be, hundreds, thousands of people that benefit from the things that Al and the group have done today. Rohi, I believe in this. I want to support it in any way that I can. I think this is an important thing for us to do, to expand beyond the geographical areas that we may represent right now. So I think this is a good thing. We're starting off. Al, thanks for leading this. Thanks everybody for participating in this. The input that you have from today, leading into some concrete next steps. It's off and going. I think this is a good thing. Thanks, Al.
Good. Thanks, Harry. We appreciate that. And if there's not any other comments, I
Anita
guess.
had a question about what the date in September.
Oh yes, I was going to ask that same thing. It's in September. What is the exact date on that, Jose?
This September? Oh, just a moment.
Might even be on my calendar already. I should look them.
Yeah, it's already on the website. I will show you.
I have it as September 16th in my calendar.
Yep, that's it.
Yes, yes,
September
correct.
16th at the same time on September 16th.
Yeah. About the topic is we are learning that the tools, AI tools, can help so much. And this is just one perspective. Another perspective is, and this is what we are practically learning, the tools can not help as long as their data is not available on internet. When we ask some questions, it depends what's already there that the tool can find. So one of the messages would be how we, as a network, can be better at publishing or posting of what is already there. Tools will then grab it and put together and do some analysis and something good for all of us. But would be good to ask or suggest the associations to pay attention to that. Otherwise, the tools will not find wonderful things that retired professors are doing. So everybody invited in September.
And actually, one thing just in connection with that I think of is that I've used Claude on a number of different things already, but I needed a little bit of instruction to get there. I think I now, but I'm not a wizard on it, but I've used it very effectively. Referencing people to places where they can learn how to use AI might be a very good thing to include in that meeting in September. If you're not familiar with it, if you haven't used it, where can you get ideas on which one of the various tools that are available right now might be of use to some of our members.
It's a better tool than chat or the Zoom ones. It's a nice tool.
Yep, I came to that conclusion also. Yeah, the Claude one really, I don't know, it's done some really good things for me.
Those are amazing. Like my wife and I say, we're living in the future.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize at this time in my career that's what I'd be advancing to.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
I like that phrase, Eric. That's a good one.
Yes. The other thing we say is whenever we see some new technological advancement and wondering, well, how's that work? And say, I don't know. It's all magic to me. It just happens.
And where did they get this? Where do they get this information from? And then but you also then have to check it out too, because there's
yeah.
things that that might come up that either aren't true or they're misleading, even if they are true. So I mean, there's that should be a very interesting discussion in September.
Yeah. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you next month here in Minnesota. It's good seeing everybody, and I hope to see you down in Florida for the Arohi conference. You can find more information at arohi.org. One of the ways for us to connect with each other. This is a great way, but meeting in person is also a great way to connect.
Very good. I'm going to stop the recording and